Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Literary Hour. It's a nice day outside. I don't know where you are, but it's a very nice day where I am. And we've chosen again to come and sit with you and discuss a literary work. And of course, as always, with me is my professor, co-host, and mentor, Prof. Nagbe. Hi, Prof.
Hey, Jackie. It's good to be here again. Yeah.
Yeah, I like your background.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, thank you. You gotta keep rotating.
You gotta keep rotating. Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Prof, how was your week?
It was kind of the same old, you know, a lot of bad stories to hear and yet a lot of exciting and renewing stories to hear. So that's our world. Day and night, rain and shine, everything together.
Yes, and that's what we're going to talk about today, right? Rain or shine,
Yeah.
hope, expectation, and meaninglessness.
Yeah.
Waiting for Godot.
Yeah.
And when we posted a book, I hope people read the book. And as I always say, oh, everybody has read the book, and Prof always tells me, no, not everybody. But it was one of the plays, actually, one of the plays that we did read. It became a phrase, waiting for Godot. What are you waiting for? I'm waiting for Godot. So that was one of the phrases. Yeah. So
and I mean, this is where it's very much important to know that literature has a way of expanding people's language. People's language as far as words are concerned, people's language as far as phrases are concerned. And Godot, Waiting for Godot, actually brought in a very, sometimes it gets even mysterious, this whole idea of waiting for Godot. What is that? Who is that? And what have you? So it's very important that we kind of invest some time in it this evening.
Yeah, so the book was written between, I think, 1948 and 1949 by Samuel Beckett. And he had written a couple of other plays before then. He was born in Ireland. He recently, he died recently, I think 1989 was when he died. Yeah.
And he stayed much time in France.
Yeah. As actually a fighter. Yeah. So he won the Nobel Peace, the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1969. But I think he has a lot of other works, but he's famous for Waiting for Godot.
Yeah, that's right.
You know,
and that's what normally happens. You write as an artist, you write, and there's just one item that just blows your name away. Prince Nigo Mbaraga. He wrote, he made a lot of songs and what have you, but his Sweet Mother, almost no other thing can match his Sweet Mother, and so many things like that. So it takes one to make you shine forever.
And so before we discuss the book, we want to situate the book into the literary genre. Is more modernism and postmodernism, right, Prof?
Yes.
Because I guess postmodernism and modernism, they kind of do away with the conventional or the traditional ways of writing, and they deal with the human condition, the loneliness. I think with the, I guess I would say meaninglessness of existence.
And that's all the reason why it falls into absurdism.
Yeah. So it's part of the theater of the absurd.
Theater of the absurd.
Yeah. So while we're using these words, we also say it's a tragic comedy.
Yeah.
And a tragic comedy is a piece of writing that has both, right? Tragedy and comedy.
It starts on a kind of sad note and what have you. Then of course it ends in laughter and all that kind of a thing. So that's why it's tragic comedy. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think with Waiting for Godot, there are just 2 acts.
Yes.
It's not a long. It's not. It's like last week we discussed 12 Angry Men.
Yeah.
Which is a play.
Yeah.
This is also a play, and it's not
Mm.
very long,
Yes.
you
Short
know?
one. Mm.
Yeah. And it falls into this theater of the absurd, because theater of the absurd, there are plays that seem
Mm.
crazy, but they ask very important
Yeah.
questions.
Yes, that's
You
right.
know, like, does the human condition have meaning? What is
Mm-hmm.
the value of
Yeah.
life? You
Yes.
know, those
Uh,
are the things that those are the questions that are underneath this absurdity. You know, you're laughing, but why
mm.
you're laughing is asking you to question, you know.
Tom, it is in talking about waiting for Godot. People tend to quote Tim O'Brien, who basically says something like, "Literature deals in lies that ends up in truth." Yeah,
Yeah.
literature deals in lies, or fiction deals in lies that end up in truth. In other words, yes, there is a fictionalization of things, but if you look deeper, you get to understand the meaning of life. You get to understand a lot of things that you couldn't have possibly understood if you didn't read that work or you didn't listen to that work.
And before we discuss, I have something I want to read, and it's when he won the Nobel Prize in
Mhm.
1969, the person, the presentation speech by Karl Ragnar, Gero of the Swedish Academy. I read the presentation speech, and I felt like this one was really, really something that we should read. If I may, Prof,
Mhm.
it begins, and I quote, it said, "This seems to be stated most clearly in the two masterpieces, right?
Mhm.
Waiting for Godot and Happy Days, each of which, in a way, is a development of a biblical text. In the case of Godot, we have, I'll doubt he that should come, or do we look for another?" Right? So he goes on to say, the two tramps are confronted with the meaninglessness of existence at its most brutal.
Yeah.
It may be a human figure. No laws are as cruel as those of creation, and man's peculiar status in creation comes from being the only creature to apply these laws with deliberately evil intent.
Mhm.
But if we conceive of a providence or source, even of the immeasurable suffering inflicted by and on mankind, what sort of Almighty is that we, like the tramps, are to meet somewhere someday? Beckett's answer consists of the title of the play. By the end of the performance, as the end of our own, we know nothing about this Godot. At the final curtain, we have no intimation of the force whose progress we have witnessed. But we do know one thing, of which all the horror of this experience cannot deprive us, namely our waiting. This is man's metaphysical predicament of perpetual, uncertain expectation captured with true poetic simplicity. Waiting for Godot. Yeah, I really like that, because before we explain the book, I feel that this captures what we're going to discuss. So, Prof, do you want to give a synopsis of the book before we delve into it? Okay.
Yeah. Waiting for Godot, we have five characters. In some instances, it's like talking about six characters because you have Vladimir and Estragon.
Yes, right.
Uh, Vladimir has a nickname, Didi,
Yep.
and Estragon has Gogo. Uh, it is the first two that appear on the scene by a leafless tree, and then later come in uh,
Lucky.
Pozo, and Lucky.
Yeah.
And much later on, you have a boy. Then that's in the first act.
Yeah.
It is in the second act that the boy appears again. But there is some link, which is that of not remembering. The very boy who in the first act had interacted with them to even indicate that Godot promised to come, uh, came in the second act, and so to everything that he didn't remember, meeting Vladimir and the dragon. So there are several scenes that change both in Act 1 and Act 2. But at the end of it all, the Godot that they had been waiting for, who had promised in Act 1 that he would come, did not come.
So the play can be read several ways.
Mm.
We have these two men, day in and day out, they are waiting for this Godot that they don't know.
Yeah.
But this man is their salvation.
Yeah.
He will save them from what they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So they wait. Throughout the play, each one tells the other, let's go.
Yeah.
No, we wait.
Yeah.
So the inaction,
Yeah.
the cyclical indecision, which is in a way a decision. They've decided to wait.
Yes.
And so they wait.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that when you're reading the play, it doesn't tell you, it doesn't give you markers like it happened in this country or this, because it fits any society. This play, Prof, like Animal Farm, like the allegory of the cave, it can pertain. And in fact, I had said that when we're discussing the play, we can also discuss Liberia. This mythical figure that we think is going to come and save our country. This person that Godot, that Estragon and Vladimir is waiting for, that never comes, but yet they think he's coming. So this waiting for Godot is almost a fruitless exercise. They're just waiting for what? And it could also be, not fruitless in like the Christians, they're waiting for God and the second coming, and they know that everything will be transformed. But these two men, they solely believe in Godot and that he's coming. Yes.
And the thing that is very much important, the play is a celebration of waiting.
Yeah.
A celebration of waiting. And the question is, what do you do when you are waiting?
Yes.
How do you wait?
Yes.
And what image do you create as far as the waiting is concerned? So all these things become questions that have to be dealt with. They become a preoccupation of the human condition, of the human self.
Yes.
So the teasing of the mind, the teasing of expectations and what have you, they are all crowding into this one thing of waiting. So it is more of what strategies do you create? And in waiting, what do you understand you are waiting for? That is all the reason why virtually one of the key things about the work of an artist is that the more it can pull in a lot of themes, the more it can pull in strands of conversation, the better it is, because almost everyone who goes to that work has something to take from there. And that is essential to a kind of creating the kind of conversation that we must always hold.
Yeah, I think you've made a good point, and it's true, because if we look at the human condition, let's put it that way, right? Vladimir wants to wait. Estragon wants to leave, but he cannot leave.
Yeah.
He's still there. And then there's nothingness, because they're just waiting.
Yeah.
And to pass the time,
Yeah.
which is kind of really absurd, they start to talk about hanging themselves.
Yeah.
Is this branch strong enough?
Yeah.
You go first, then I'll go.
Yeah.
The absurdity of waiting
Yeah.
and not doing anything constructive.
Yeah.
And when we say we will, it's almost like we're using the Liberian scenario, but it can fit anything. Some people, they are waiting to go home.
Yeah.
Right? So some people, they see their life away from Liberia as just a sojourn.
Yeah.
And so they are going to go home. So they are waiting in this place. I think Dr. Seuss even wrote a book, The Waiting Place.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the places you go, and in that book is the waiting place. So they're waiting, and they're not going to leave the stage, which is they are not going to get involved in anything else. They're going to wait for that. For them, Godot is not a person, it's that circumstance, that event that will propel them back to the homeland. There are others who are in a relationship. I guess they're waiting for, there are others who they're like, we wait for Godot because he will save, like you said, Liberia. He will save us. So Beckett is showing this. Like I like what you said. There's emptiness, but and sometimes promise of waiting. But how do we wait?
Yes.
So the meaninglessness it can be turned into meaningfulness.
Yeah.
You have to decide, how do you wait? While you're waiting to return to Liberia, are you doing something constructive, learning something? Or are you like Vladimir and Estragon? Are you just hanging around, waiting, to go? So yeah.
And the communalism of the play also comes out. The communalism meaning that each doesn't want to leave the other.
Yes.
Estragon wants to go, but of course there's something that's always holding it. It gets to a point where they are talking about the hanging, and it's like, no, you go first. No, I will go. Yes, let me go first. No, you wait. I'm going to go in there, and all that, because the plan they have is that while they are waiting, they will be actively engaged.
Yes.
And it will contain something like posing questions to each other, or raising topics, raising themes to be discussed and what have you. But at the end, at the heart of it all, is that none wants to leave the other. So this whole idea of community, and of course, it gets to a point that sometimes Estragon depends on Vladimir for memory loss and that sort of a thing. So that whole idea of collective memory is also shown within the pages of Waiting for Godot.
Yeah, this play is is very, very interesting, because, like we said, is a postmodern or modern play, and one of the hallmarks is the loneliness that comes, with this new era. So they exchange hats, right? They talk. When I think Vladimir is having nightmares, or the other one, they wake him up and say, let me tell you my dream. I don't want to hear about your nightmares. But yet, and they argue, and one of them, every time he goes to sleep, he's beaten.
Yes.
And they argue, but even though they argue, they refuse to, I think Estragon will say, I'm about to leave.
Yes.
Right? But not go anywhere. But Vladimir wants to wait.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going, but and also one of the questions they also ask is, he said, where do we come in? Right? And then Vladimir said, on our hands and knees. And Estragon was asking him, what, do we no longer have any rights?
Yes.
But really you don't, because all your rights, they are
into the waiting for Godot.
You're waiting for Godot. Yes. And the interesting thing is, Act 1 And Act 2 ends the same way.
Yeah.
Well, shall we go?
Yes.
And then Estragon says, yes, let's go. But
Yes.
none of them leaves.
Yeah. None of them leaves.
It ends the
Again,
same way.
yes, that's right. It's
You know?
again this whole idea of dependence and dependability
Yes.
become hallmarks of the. We have to also understand that at the start of it all, Vladimir talks about the two thieves.
Yes.
Again, that brings in the spirituality. That brings in the spirituality of the play. Uh, he asks for the three thieves, and then Ezra goes into a whole idea describing the map of the crucifixion and all that kind of a thing in there.
You know,
And
I'm sorry. You know, there's this funny part where when they're talking about the three that were killed, that were crucified with Christ,
yeah,
eh?
true, yeah, true.
And
Yes,
I think it was Ezra God. I'm not sure, but I
that's
want to go look because he said, "How come in the gospel, Matthew,
yeah,
Mark, Luke,
yeah,
and John,
yeah,
how come none of the other three talk about this thief who Jesus saves? Eh?
yeah, that's
Only
right. Yeah,
Luke is the only one."
yes.
Yeah. So then the question comes: why should we believe Luke
Mhm.
if the other three, who
Yeah,
are more in number,
yeah.
they did not say that
Mhm.
Jesus said to the thief, "Today you will enter with me into heaven," but
Yeah.
Luke says it. So why do we believe Luke and not the other three?
Again, the aspect of doubting.
Yes.
The aspect of
Yeah,
doubting.
yeah, you're right.
The
Yeah,
aspect of doubting. Yes.
yeah, yeah. And so they have this give and take discussion that I like, you know, and through you can really find bits of nuggets of wisdom, and you
Yeah.
almost like, why don't you just go? Why don't you just
Yeah.
go? But they can't
They
go.
are meant to be together. In
Yes,
mind you now, they've been together for 50 years.
yes,
Yeah, they have
waiting.
been together. Pozo and Lucky had been together for 60 years.
Yes,
Yeah. So, but again, like I said, it highlights the importance of conversation. It highlights the importance of community, where each member depends on the other. Especially, life life would be meaningless without narratives,
yeah.
without a story. The whole idea of keeping the story, and not only keeping the story, but making sure that the parts of the story continue to vibrate throughout life is very much important, and that comes out in the play Waiting for Godot. One misses a part, and the other comes in to kind of fill in the gap and that sort of a thing.
You know, Prof, I wrote down some of the thing because I just couldn't stop laughing. You know,
Yeah,
like as I when in Act 2, when Estragon asked Vladimir, what exactly did we ask Godot for?
yeah,
You know, first of all, so to me, there's a spiritual aspect.
yeah,
If you don't know Godot, when did you ask him for something?
yeah.
So then I'm thinking, okay, is the God, you know, is the God-like person that you
Yes,
think they are all knowing and
yes.
all powerful.
A messianic type of.
Yes.
Uh,
So then I started to think, I said, what if Godot was a play on God?
yeah,
You know, it could be waiting for God. Yeah,
yes.
right. And I mean, you don't know. And then Estragon says to Vladimir, we got rid of our rights,
Mhm.
right? So in this
If we ever
waiting,
had them.
we never had them. Yeah, you know. So in this waiting, you give up things while you wait.
Yeah,
You know, so it could be you give up comfort, whatever, but you give
yeah.
up things while you're waiting.
Mhm.
You know, and I think
Sharing in lieu of expectations.
yeah,
Sharing.
yeah, yeah. And I think that like when he says nothing happens, nobody comes, nobody goes, it is awful. You know, they acknowledge that the situation is awful, but they don't leave. But they acknowledge that it's awful. You know, and that's the thing that it's like I think if I were watching, I would say, why don't you just get up and go?
Mhm.
You know, but they can't.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't they go? Well, uh, they the time has been bastardized.
Yeah.
Time has been bastardized. It doesn't exist anymore, and yet we think it exists. It is a philosophical question that sometimes heightens the waiting, heightens the frustration, and yet paradoxically heightens the satisfaction, the idea that we wait.
Yeah.
So again, we if we if others in the audience will ever come back to this specific session, it's more of the question and the celebration of waiting. Um, the idea that something juices up the human condition of waiting, because actually I think we discussed some part of this theme some time ago. Every time a particular epoch is about to or has come, we want to see, we are eager to see what is going to happen beyond that epoch. And that creates the excitement, that creates this whole idea. Even the talking about what is happening in current life today with the fighting in Russia and Ukraine. The whole idea is what is going to happen next. Is the world going to continue waiting and have this one powerful person decimate, even though others are threatening to do this and do that? It's like a a vehicle is coming. A vehicle has lost its control and is coming. And instead of getting away, everyone is saying, "How do we do the running away?" No, you run first. No, stop. Let's wait and see where this car is coming. Yet it is coming at full speed towards you. So this whole idea of being in the convolution, this whole idea of being in the fog of confusion, uh, perhaps it's satisfied, and that's foolishness to say it satisfies. Yet, but that is the reality we are facing in the process, and that is what partly waiting for Godot is pushing. It's a puzzle. It's a riddle. What do you do with the riddle? How do you satisfy it? It's like there is in Liberia. I used to see that painting, but I don't see it here. It doesn't mean that probably it originated in Liberia. But there is this painting where so many things are driving towards you to eliminate you. There is a crocodile, there is a snake, there is another thing. And when you read through it and what have you, they said the only solution is to wake up, because you are caught up in this nightmare. And if you remain in the nightmare, who knows what is going to happen to you? But to dispel the power to disarm this particular nightmare is to wake up from sleep. So it is more of the reflection. What happens when we are caught up in the confusion of life and what have you? What do we do? Do we continue in that confusion, or we have a way of breaking ourselves free?
And in a play, there's Lucky and there's Pozo,
Yeah.
right? And for me, I just think that the entrance of these two men and the boy in some way, but the boy has a message. But Pozo and Lucky, who comes in, I equate them to trivialities that come in your life while you wait.
Mhm.
And I could be wrong, but we can argue that, because I don't see any significance other than that they bring to the play. The only thing is that when Lucky and Pozo comes back, right? In
Yeah.
fact, in one I think is Estragon, he says the blind have no concept of time.
Yeah.
That was the second one, and I was laughing because I'm like, you also, so you're blind too.
Yeah.
You're figuratively or metaphorically
Mhm.
blind because
Yeah.
you're not
Mhm.
seeing that you're waiting. But
Mhm.
then when Vladimir commented that Pozo and Lucky had changed,
Yeah.
Estragon said they all changed. Only we can't.
Yeah.
So this waiting This meaningless waiting stifles creativity.
Yeah.
It stifles growth.
Yeah.
It stifles movement.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's saying we can't. They
Yeah.
all change, but we can't.
Mm.
So this waiting place, I equate it. If people who are listening remember 2 weeks ago, I equate it to the people who are chained in a cave,
Yeah.
looking at the wall.
Yeah.
They cannot, see the substance under the shadows because they can't turn. And I feel like that same powerlessness
Mm.
is in Estragon and Vladimir,
Mm.
but Vladimir and Estragon, they have a choice
Yeah.
that they refuse to exert,
Yes.
and and so if you look at people who are in situations, oh, they're in an abusive situation, or oh, they're in a bad place.
Mm.
Sometimes that place, and I'm not trying to make light of abuse, but sometimes that place is of their own choosing and
Mm.
making,
Mm.
because some of them, they do have the means,
Mm.
the wherewithal,
Mm.
and the opportunity to leave,
Yeah.
but they're tied. They're waiting for this, either
Mm.
this
Mm.
person who's going to come and save them,
Yeah.
or they're waiting for Pozo and Lucky,
Yeah.
to come in like some trivial thing.
Mm.
But but this place, this stage, this place where they are under this tree is a terrible place,
Mm.
and you equate it to any circumstance in your life where you're not supposed to be there.
Mm.
You know that if you remain there, you will die,
Mm.
but you're still there. Yeah.
The transformation, either out of a person or out of the mind, the transformation of an environment is very much important. Transitioning from one environment to the other. And that is why the whole idea of reflection, the whole
Yes.
idea of meditation, the whole idea of understanding your circumstances at every given time, the environment at every given time is very much important, because that eventually determines your next step. What determines your next step if you are in an environment? What determines the tools you want to bring along if you want to leave? To not study that environment and make a move is to be rash. And of course, at some point, you might crash if you continue like that. So it is very much important for you to understand the environment before you make the step. You've got to understand the air. You've got to understand the language. You've got to understand what feeds into a particular type of feeling you have at a particular time. Those things are very much important. You were talking about the circumstance of Pozo and Lucky. I believe you caught a point that should not be trivialized, which is that Pozo and Loki happen to be symbols of distractions and what have you, because there is more temporariness to their living and going than that of the case of Vladimir
Yeah.
and Estragon.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that when you say about the collective memory,
Yeah.
because I think it's Vladimir who's always losing his memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Vladimir, yeah, Estragon does, and Vladimir. In fact, they their whole relationship is symbiotic.
yes,
You know,
yes,
they depend on each other, and again, that is where the sense of community comes in. First, we see that this guy there's a there's the need to commit suicide, but who goes first? And the question is, I want to do it, but I want to leave, but I can't leave. You are here. I'm thinking, if I commit suicide, where am I leaving you? That sort of a thing. So it's always dependence
yes,
on each other, and that is again that is the beautiful tragedy of it all. The very fact that one cannot go leaving the other, and one depends on the other for memory, depends on one another for the memory, and once that is put in place, of course, other opportunities for staying together come into the picture.
And talking about memory and community, it brings to mind John Donne's "No man is an island
Yeah, yeah,
entire of
yeah, yeah.
itself." You know,
Meditation
uh,
17,
uh,
yes.
yeah. So uh, this idea of memory, because now it has become one of the hallmarks of almost a new history: truth and memory.
Mm,
What is it that you remember? What is history? What is truth? You know, it, it, uh, uh, um, is truth something that is malleable?
mm,
You know, or is it that is history really the history?
yeah,
Memory plays tricks on you.
yeah,
So what is it that you remember,
yeah,
and how do you know that it happened?
yeah,
So for Vladimir, like you said, they are interchangeable.
yeah,
One of them, every time he wakes up, he has forgotten,
yeah.
and the other one serves as the well, I wouldn't say truth teller, but he is the one who helps
Fills
him
in,
to,
yeah,
to
yeah,
remember.
yeah,
And if again, coming back to the Liberian society, that is why we always talk about those who remember. It is their duty, like Plato say, go back in a cave and tell the people, what you've seen outside. So those who uh I mean, like when I meet young people from Liberia, I'm saying, oh, this happened, and some of them say, I don't remember that. All I remember was running from the war. But I feel it is our duty to fill in the gaps, those spaces in memory that has not yet coalesced. We are the ones that fill the gaps for them. So that's what these two do. They exchange hats. They talk to each other, but I think if one left the stage
mm,
and the other refused to go, he would die,
yeah,
because they are so intertwined. Their
yeah,
lives, their
yeah.
experiences, they are together.
And,
Yeah.
and we have to understand the concept of the psychological concept of selective memory.
Yes. Yeah.
And it does come in really when individuals out of traumatic experiences who prefer not to remember certain things. And we've seen that in Liberian history, for instance, where people who want us to be done with the Fernando crisis, where people who want us to be done with the idea that the land was not acquired, in what? In a judicious way. All these things that kind of draw in dishonesty, draw in uh, dispossession of other people and what have you. People want us to leave them alone. People want us to forget them. That's where selective memory comes in. But these things have to come in with the assurance that even though these things may have passed, we have to know why they happen so that in the modern times we do not what? Repeat them. That is why history is very much important. The idea that it reminds us that human beings have not been pluperfect. Human beings have had their soiled parts, and yet human beings can encourage other human beings to be done with the evil of the past and live a life that is going to offer more good things of life as time goes on.
Yeah, because I can't keep them straight, but I think it was Esther or Vladimir. No, I think it was Vladimir who said, "Mankind is us, whether we like it or not. It's us."
Yes,
And
yes,
and it's true, because in this we see that each person, like we said before, each person can relate it to their life,
yeah.
right? And one of the I'm thinking I like about, I think it's a quote. Let me see if I can find it. Uh, uh, so when Vladimir is saying that this waiting is making us lose our mind,
Mm-hmm.
right? Esther said, we are all born mad.
Yeah,
Some of us just remain so,
yes.
and these two men, although we are looking at them like in the framework of the absurd, they are speaking truth. They think about things. They seem, foolish for waiting, but they have truths in it, you know. When they talk about, I think he says that we are like mankind, and mankind is us, right? Yeah, he and then when Pozo came back, right? Pozo was blind,
Yeah.
and then Pozo said to them, about suffering, to give birth astride of a grave, the
Yeah.
light gleams an instant,
Mhm.
then it's night once more.
Yeah.
So that light is actually you.
Yes.
It's
The
almost like,
duality.
yeah, it's almost like
Duality.
Shakespeare saying, all the world's a stage and all men
Yeah.
are players. We each have our entrances and our exits, you know. So these things about the nothingness of life, making life meaningful,
Mm.
you know, it kind of like resonates in most of
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
plays.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's it's very much important, especially the duality of circumstances.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
Pozo, as you said, Pozo comes in blind, Lucky comes in mute.
mute, yes,
The tree in the second act, the tree that was leafless,
yes.
shows buds and what have you. Of course, it comes in with the time,
The
the
passage of
the
time, yeah,
time, the
yeah.
passage of time and what have you. Yet, the whole idea of changing circumstances can never be lost on people as they go through that play.
So the boy, let's
Mm,
talk about the boy, right?
yeah.
Because it seems as if, um and they keep repeating this phrase, nothing is to be done, nothing is to be
Yeah.
done.
Yes.
But just when it seems as if you're like, finally
Yeah.
they're going to leave,
Yeah.
the boy comes
Yeah.
and he
The
said,
boy.
Godot's coming.
Yes.
You know?
In fact, first he denies that he ever met them.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
and that frustrates Vladimir and Estragon. What are you talking about? Just the other day you were here and we talked, and then we gave you a message to
yes,
Godot to say, well, we trust that so and so, but he's going to come, and then you come today and you, in fact, both Vladimir and they are raising their voices. What kind of foolish guy is this?
yeah,
There is another part which comes to, and it says that uh, was there just one boy or two boys?
yeah.
Yeah, so that is the riddle effect
Yes,
of the whole thing.
yeah, and yeah, yeah. I remember that part. And actually, reading it, I think Vladimir was more, I don't know, I would say curious, but he was wise a little bit.
What that's you so say. So it is the duality of the human condition that got on stage, because Vladimir is a representation of intelligence, the intellect,
Yes,
and estragon is the representation of the body. So
yes,
you can understand why both kind of fall in for the other, because
yeah.
yes, not can do without the other, and that also heightens the importance of the play.
And I
Oh
think one
yeah,
of them, yeah, and I think they're like every man,
yeah,
every
every
man. But
man, yeah,
I think I don't know which one. One of them said, "I have stinking breath, and you have stinking feet."
yeah.
You know?
And in fact, the one who says I have things, that's Vladimir, and of course you have estragon. You remember in the first act, we meet him trying to take off his boots.
Yes.
We meet him trying to take off his boots, and it's a very difficult. Help me, help me! So
Yeah, it's
this
called
thing
Sting.
yeah,
He's gonna fight him. Yeah,
yeah, that's right. So
yeah.
that's what is happening out there.
So one of the other things that is that Estragon, every time he sleeps, he gets beaten. By whom?
Yeah. Is it but his own pressure and what have you? Is that what gets who that beats him and
Yeah,
finds
because
him
he keeps
and
saying that.
crying?
So yeah, and then reading about it, they say it means like suffering is inevitable.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's sleeping. It's not like somebody coming and he's sleeping. And I'm
But
like,
the thing about it, uh, how many times, having gone through the rigors of thinking that sometimes end in depression, You don't sit down somewhere and you feel so exhausted without anyone touching you. You feel
Yes,
so
yes,
exhausted
yes,
about
you said yes.
the humdrums of life and what have you. So it's sometimes it's not even physical. If you break up from a nightmare, you know, if the nightmare had been so much of a pressure on you, you get up, even to get out of bed becomes a problem. So it may not be a physical beating, but it will have to be a mental beating. And we always there's something about mental suffering that is greater than physical suffering. As far as physical suffering is concerned, you can extract that physicality that is causing you, but something that it kind of infects and affects you in the mind continues with you for a very long time, because actually the mind doesn't have boundary. There aren't borders in the mind. What you try, and that is again, is not far-fetched to say that is why uh, those who use drugs, for instance, they don't so easily break away from drugs, because actually there is something they want to escape from, but that is always there. And since the mind doesn't have border, every time is more of being in escapism that may not even cue in the process. And that's how you have this person going down, down until eventually death has its claim on that person.
Yeah, and if you again we come back to Liberia, if you look at Liberia as the stage, right? And we have every man, Vladimir and Estrogen, or Masekwe and
Mhm.
Famula and Jonathan, they're on the stage. So everybody's waiting now for this person who's going to save Liberia,
Yeah.
right? Yet, and I'm going to get on my high horse today. Yet, none of them can pick up a broom, right? Say, oh, let's clean Liberia.
Yeah.
None of them can say, oh, let's do something
Yeah.
meaningful while we wait for
Yeah.
Godot,
Mhm.
right? There is no Godot,
Yeah.
as Beckett shows you, right? Your ability as a person, your individual
Mhm.
self,
Yeah.
you and only you will save yourself, because like Vladimir, his feet could walk him off that
Mhm.
stage.
Yeah.
So you yourself would be the person that will save yourself, and like you said, the tree, the weeks will pass, the days will pass, the years will pass, while you're waiting for this person, this
Mhm.
mythical person that you think is going to come. And interspersed between your life will be those insignificant trivialities, like, oh, today is JJ Roberts' birthday, let's go on the beach, or let's go, oh my. So these things, he's saying that, like Pozo and Lucky, they are just trivial. They're just there to pass the time, right? They go in, they go out, and sometimes they do come back changed, because Pozo and Lucky, they're changed, and then every time you decide, you know what, today let me get up, man, let me go try and do something, there's always something or someone to say, why are you doing that? Why you gotta go clean the street, and you got other people, you got other things to do, so then you sit back. So this play is really prof. I wish, well, maybe that they teach these seminal works, Allegory of the Cave, Waiting for Godot. I mean, we read Waiting for Godot at the University of Liberia,
Mhm.
but surely, I mean, people could do plays. We used to go to plays in Liberia, So it's one thing to just read it, but the underneath of things, tells you the real story. That in life, it is up to you and nobody else to decide your life.
You touch on one or two things that should be kind of highlighted. The whole question again, it comes back to the question of what is waiting.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true.
What strategies are required for waiting? How do you break out of the waiting? And there are two C words that should be remembered as we go along. Maybe at some point when we look at comments, those two words are creative thinking and thinking of creativity. So you've got to be creative in life, and you've got to always put on your thinking cap. In the midst of that, or what links both of them is reflection. And the whole idea of reflection must become a teamwork, whether it is two to a team or three to a team or whatever number. But it is very much important for that number to be concise so that people will understand one another and find ways that lead into a place of comfort, a place of relief. Because actually, looking at the play and remembering a lot of things, why are you waiting for Godot? It is more of you want to have a sense of relief. You want to have a sense of comfort. At some point, they're talking about who is to make us shed the scene, who is to help us break away from the conundrum that we find ourselves in and what have you. So again, understanding your environment and trying as much as possible to create a set of strategies by which you can break from this kind of nightmarish condition is very much important as we go on. So that whatever we are discussing is like, they were just talking about waiting. We'll get time for waiting there, what have you. But it is waiting with a purpose. We can talk about other, as you pointed out, the meaninglessness of life or the meaningfulness of life. And these things cannot come about if we cannot if we cannot develop a sense of creativity, if we cannot develop a sense of critical thinking.
Yeah, and you can also say that the waiting place is almost like life.
Yeah.
And Godot is death.
Yeah.
You're waiting to die.
Yeah.
So what are you doing with your life before you die? Yeah. But one of the things you touch on is introspection and reflection. Yeah. I mean, in many countries, even this country with my two girls, they teach them to write their thoughts in journals.
Yeah.
Most of them, you see that they write it, and then they go back, they can reflect, they can see how they've grown, and some people usually keep those journals, for years to go back and say, oh, March 12th, this is what happened, this is how I was thinking, and now this March 12th, this is what I'm thinking, I've grown. So it is very Prof.
Yeah, and writing is also an instrument of purgation. Writing is an instrument of purgation. If you had a traumatic, if you went through the war and you had a very difficult circumstance and what have you, you are asked in class to do journaling. And in journaling, you are purging yourself of the feelings that will hold you bondage and what have you.
Yeah, and most of the times when we're talking about introspection and reflection, it seems as if we always talk about, oh, we're doing this, but the thing I will always say is that it's very difficult sometimes, to do those things in a crowd. And it's always good to to step aside, go to a quiet place, and really reflect, on things instead of being perpetually in a crowd, because I feel like reflection, take a walk, think about things, instead of, because like I said, it's very difficult if you are with a lot of people. And so sometimes, and somehow I think purposefully Beckett put just two people, and within these two people you can find characteristics of everybody. Idealistic, pragmatic sometimes, funny, forgetful, I don't unmindful, you're reading, I'm like, oh, I like Vladimir, and then I'm reading, I'm like, oh, I like Estragon, but these are every man, every man, as they say in literature, every man, and you can relate to them. Yeah. So let's look at some of our comments, Prof, and see if people read this short play and what they had to say. So Mapu is here. Hey, you Hello, 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 hello. Yeah, she's here. I meant to check in, but I've been swamped. Okay, she's been swamped. And sorry, Prof. I can't. I don't have my glasses. I see. Okay. So Emmanuel Jackson says he's watching from Lynn, Massachusetts. Hello,
Welcome,
Emmanuel.
Jackson.
Yeah. Um, Margaret says, oh, she's still swamped.
Hmm.
Oh, she's calling her friend to come and see. It starts sad and ends happy. Tragic comedy, Prof. She was talking about that. Kuku Jumuku.
Hmm.
Ram Snorton. Okay. Kuku Jumuku. Thanks for the show. Always. Chebo says, um, great conversation, always educative and emotive. Yeah. So we don't have a lot of comments. As I said, it seemed as if it was a nice day. People were outside. They didn't read the book as we asked them to, but it's a good discussion, to talk about waiting for Godot. I know, I mean, at LU or UL as they call it now, we had a lot of fun, you know. Every time we're waiting for you, Prof, or somebody to come to class, we say we're waiting for Godot. The teacher always late. The
The
professor is late.
that talks about the social science, I think 201, social science 201 course. That's part of the waiting for Godot. It was a seminar course, bringing in every students from. I mean, it was a requirement. That's Liberian Society, and so uh, people will be in class and waiting for maybe Dr. Sawyer, Dr. Chaudhry, who will come to talk about this part or that part of the Liberian Society. I remember in the last years before, in the last semester or two before the Civil War, I made a move and brought in Liberian society through literature, and that literary component was part of the introduction to Liberian society up to the time that the war came. So anytime people were waiting for a segmental professor, there was a lot of conversation in the place there. In fact, people reading poetry and all that kind of a thing, just to keep up the time, when you look to the front door and either Dr. Sawyer will come marching in or Dr. Chaudhry or any other person will come marching in to, yeah.
I remember Dr. Shaduri, he used to sit on a table and cross his legs. He
And
would
go on
just
talking, right?
tell us Liberian history.
Yeah,
But but that's the thing about literature, it is the human condition.
literature is life.
Yeah. So whenever you're reading a piece of poetry or you're reading prose, people think that, well, some people, not everybody, think that they can just read it in isolation. No, allegory of the cave is not no isolated event or isolated story. It pertains to your life. It
Yeah,
pertains to a country's life. If the people don't want to see or they are uneducated, they are shackled to that, looking at the wall.
yeah,
We're waiting for Godot. These are two men who seem to be waiting. But it can appeal to anything. I mean, it can pertain to anything. It can pertain to a society that people feel helpless.
yeah.
So
Lethargic.
yeah, like they say, what am I going to do? There's nothing I can do anyway, so why do I have to help Liberia? That's a problem right there. you know or they will say, what, things are okay now, but so I'll just wait and watch and see. That's a problem. So I think that the answer to waiting for Godot is get involved. I mean, get involved in your community, get involved in your country, get involved in your country's life blood. Everybody doesn't have to occupy um a big space, but do what you can with
Yeah,
where you are. As I say, pick up a broom. you know each one teach one. Yeah, teaches one. Just do something. And I think that way our life would be more meaningful. Instead of waiting for Godot, because Godot's not coming. He's never coming. And in fact, Vladimir is asking, what did we even ask him for? He forgot what he was asking
Yeah.
him for. Yeah. So yeah, Prof. I like waiting for Godot.
The thing is again, it's more of repeating the key points that people should be able to get out of this session that we are working on. Is not just waiting, but how do you wait?
Yeah.
What do you do when you wait? Why do you have to think about such questions? Because if you forget those questions, it deepens the reality of the meaninglessness. Because you, as a human person, if you think you are in the world uh, to celebrate meaninglessness, then there is something wrong with you. Then you might as well be part of uh, the species of lower animals. We are here for a purpose. We are here for a meaningful intent. We must be able to discover that, and what will help us discover that will have to be, again, one, being creative; two, have a critically thinking mind; and three, create a sense of team, create a sense of community. It is within the sense of community that you can achieve some slice of the meaningfulness that you need to make life a very interesting type of thing, to a very interesting phenomenon.
So today, ending the show, I'm going to go first, and you going to end the show, Prof.
Well, let's
So
see.
I will give my few comments, and then I will leave it up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we want to thank you again for joining us today. It's such a beautiful day here. In upstate New York, we hardly have beautiful days around this time, but it's really a beautiful day today. And we want to say that we don't choose books lightly, Prof and I. We agonize, we argue, we discuss, and we decide the book that we think will pertain to the time, and a book that will make an impact on a discussion that's happening at the time. So we've been looking at these seminal works to say that, these are very important works. These are very important to our country. They are important to the world and what's happening now. I mean, Waiting for Godot was written after World War II, and it was discussing that, does human life have value? Is human life meaningful? And now see where we are. We have crisis all over, not just Ukraine, but all over Africa, all over Asia. Sri Lanka is having protests. India is having almost, I would say, religious riots. See where we are. So if we are on this stage, this global stage, what are we going to do? Are we just going to wait for everything to fall apart? Or are we going to say, you know what? Let us start with ourselves and then do something to make an impact. So that's the Waiting for Godot. We don't want to wait. We don't want to keep waiting for somebody who will not come. We are the ones who will be waiting for.
Yeah.
So I think that we have to start with where we are, and then we have to work our way out. So if you're in Liberia, or if you're here, start where you are. And we said that last week. No country is wholly bad. No country is 100% bad. There are good things in every place. I know there are good things in Liberia as well. So try and as we always say, uplift our country, lift Liberia up, and we know that Godot is not coming, but we are our own Godot, and we will be the ones to fix things. Today I will defer to my professor so he can end it, but I will say good night and God bless. Prof.
Yeah. Yes, Jackie. I believe you made it well. The idea of finding a way to break away from restlessness is also at the heart of Waiting for Godot. Human beings were not created to be in perpetual agitation. In other words, to have anxiety and what have you. There has to be of breaking that. And one way of breaking that is understanding our environment and understanding our condition and creating the strategies and tools to be able to do the breaking free. And if we do that with much intention, then of course we are going to make a little dent in whatever life has to offer. To say that life is meaningless and therefore, to kind of slide into a kind of uh, inactivity is to do ourselves harm. And yes, to go back to we are our own Godot, and we can either destroy the expectations or bring it to fruition. So as we close, whether you are waiting for Godot or not waiting for Godot, whether you are going to be lethargic or you are not going to be lethargic, has to depend on you. But you cannot do it all by yourself. You can do it in a kind of a concerted way, so that the impact that is created will be a very meaningful one. We are glad that you all will join us today. Friday probably is not a good time we choose because so many things are often going on that Friday, but yet you always choose to be with us. So continue to be loyal, continue to always think about those things that will make this session strong and all other sessions of FOL strong.
We are Labira. Labira is our home. Labira people. Ile yurete awiwa. Labira oh. Ile yurete awiwa. Labira mi labira.